Hi, I'm Ron Paulk. Welcome to the Smart Woodshop. So I'm working away on editing the video series for building the Smart Total Station, also known as the Paulk Total Station 2, so there's no confusion. They are one and the same. As I'm going through this long series, I am finding some basically outtakes that I think might be worthwhile sharing. Some options that I ended up not pursuing, that ended up not being in the final plans. One of them was, I thought, a really great idea. I was just unable to get it to the point where I was comfortable putting it in the plans. And that is a shelf that goes and spaces the sawhorses the proper distance to work with the bench, as well as spreading them to the proper spreading, locking them together, much like the very original Paulk workbench bottom shelf. Well, like I said, I didn't quite get it there, but I did get it working, and you'll be able to see that in the video. So I thought I'd share that with you and let you take a look. Some of you may want to pursue it, and let me know what you think.
My followers know that I've been working on the Paulk Total Station for a very long time. I am very satisfied with the way things are coming out. I am effectively done. I have to put on the tape measure, and I have to drill a couple of more 20mm holes, some across in the miter section, and also a couple of extras here near the router section that I learned I needed when I was adjusting the fence. So that's the beauty of actually using it to build it. I was able to, a couple of weeks now at different phases, been able to test things out. There's been a lot of modifications, remodeling. My poor workbench, the one that I keep and use, like all of my benches, have been the prototypes, the starting point where I build and I get something working, and then it either doesn't work the way I want, as efficiently as I want, as accurately as I want, and I tear it apart. And I actually ended up redoing the mounting sections, and you'll get to see this in the build of how the extensions mount. And I'm very happy with that. I made it stronger, I made it much more efficient to put on, and almost no expense to it, just a very, very little bit. But one of the things that I have been fooling with and thinking about is the sawhorses. I've really improved them, and I'm very happy with what I ended up with. But I'm also thinking about the straps that keep them from spreading or lock them in. One of the downsides to them is that if you want to move the bench a little bit, one side to the other sort of will creep up, and then you end up having to kick them. And when you kick one, it sort of will pull one of the others up, so you end up going back and forth until you get them good and settled in. Now they are adjustable so that you can bring the straps tighter or further apart. You don't have to make the adjustment once, and then you can raise or lower the bench a small amount to match up with your table saws. 36 inch is my target because that's standard shop machine height. But you know, table saws on their wheels and everything can vary just a little bit, and it's really important that you get it so that when you're sliding something in, it doesn't bump. See, it's bumping just a little bit because I've kicked it around, but you want that to be smooth. One, because you're pushing material onto it, this is your outfeed, but also because these work well. I use 2 table saws, one on each end, and that extends, I take the fence off, and that extends the size of my bench to hold other materials up and when I'm working on projects. So making it slightly adjustable is important, and also just making it so that it's fast to set up. So I've worked on something that I want to show you. It's not the final. I'm on about my 3rd version of it. And this is actually a throwback to my very first workbench, the Paulk workbench, the one that started all of this, where I had a shelf on the bottom and I had a couple of tabs in the table saw, and I set the horses up, put that shelf on, and it held them in place. And then the bench would drop right on to its notches. And the downside to that was a 4x8 bench, so that was a big shelf. So it was an extra heavy piece, and so that was what led me to go to the straps. And I'm still with the straps. I'm not saying that I'm going away from them. I'm debating of whether I'm going to make this an option or even bother with it at all. Again, your input will be important on this. If I decide to go with it, it means probably another day in the shop, because I want to get all this right before I retire to the office and start working on the plans. There's a lot of changes, a lot of little subtle ones, but I've got to get them on there. Dimension changes, a little bit of support changes, connection changes, just lots and lots of things. And I've shot a lot of video down here, so even when I edit, I've got to decide, do I show you how I started, and then, you know, when I made these modifications, they came later. So at the phase of where you'd actually want to perform that operation, I had to go back, tear it apart. So I've got to sort of jumble the videos and say, hey, okay, here's how I build this. Oh wait, now let's jump ahead and I'll show you how I actually ended up building it. So ideally what I would do now is finish this up, take the plans back to the office, remake them, get them 100%, come down, start with fresh material and build it from scratch and record that whole thing, and it'd be super clean. But you know, I'm running out of time and patience, and I am happy with this finished bench, as beat up and cut up and drilled and knocked apart. I even broke it when I was ripping it apart because I had it glued and screwed together, and I had to cut it with my oscillating saw, cut the glue lines and whack it apart, and it busted pieces that I had to rebuild. So, you know, this one's hammered, but it's still perfect. So here's the question I have. So here's the question I have. I've made this shelf. Now I've disconnected the webbing. I've just unhooked it so that it's not having any impact on the sawhorses. And again, this is a rough prototype. This was pretty complicated to make, and it's not adjustable. Once you cut it and make it, you're sort of stuck with it. I've already got the next version in my head, how I can make it a lot easier to build and also make it so that it is adjustable, so that you can, once you get it adjusted, you can lock it in, and then if something changes in the future, you can make an adjustment to it. So again, this is very rough, but it'll give you the idea and let me know if I should pursue it. So basically it is a shelf, but it's more of just a small spreader shelf that kind of locks things in. It's not a big part. I made it out of 18 millimeter, and the replacement for this will be less cut up and have a little adjustment in it. And I'm going to use tabs on the sawhorses, which I'll have to add to these for prototyping, but then in the plans I would then change this so that when you routed this out, they would be routed in, so they'd be integral to the support horses. Now I love these support horses. I'm very happy with them, and even with the straps they work fantastic. But if I take something like this, which will fit in, and I've tested that as well, everything fits inside of the bench. Remember, I made it slightly smaller because I went to the millimeter system and wanted to go to the 96 millimeter spacing, so it made it a little narrower, a little shorter, and I was a little concerned about everything fitting, but everything fits so that for storage, putting it in a truck or a van or a trailer, you can load it in and then put everything inside of it so that it's all together. So basically, how this would work is you would take the shelf, just set your horses down, and then this would fit in and lock. It would lock the horses in their spreading, which would be the height, but it would not only lock one edge the way my original Paulk workbench did, it would lock in both sides of both horses. Now with that, this becomes, and the next version I have will actually lock it in a little bit better. I had to play with this and ended up cutting way more wood than I should have, and so there's a little float here in this, but it conveys the idea that basically a board that goes through, that spaces these, sets the spread, and locks so that all four pieces, this side, this side, this side, this side, kind of stay together. So once that's done, then putting the bench on is a no-brainer because we know these hinges are right where they need to go. Here's a mod. You can see I've got two sets of these notches. I wanted them here, but when I set it up and I started using the router, my router was bumping into the top of the horse, and they ended up thinking about moving them outboard, but then that shoved the horses to the outside of the bench, and I wanted them under, so I ended up moving them over. So that's the kind of give and take to get them just right, so the plans will be right, and you don't have to go through making all these modifications to make it work for you. So, horses, all four hinges drop right in, everything's locked in, and that gives me this really stable platform. Means carrying an extra piece, you could still put the straps on if you wanted and use it both ways, or you could just eliminate putting the straps on altogether and just go with this, we'll call it this connector shelf or connector board. It does create a little shelf that you can slide material on. Like I was thinking it'd be a great place to store my sacrificial strips. I use these in all my benches. That's why all the way back to my very first bench, the one that started all this, which I used in the beginning to build this bench, the top is in excellent shape. You don't need to cut your top up. Just have to use these sacrificial strips, which you can see these have some history to them. But basically I could put these right in the middle and just have them out of my way and keep my sides, this side for materials from cutting a miter saw, and put my tracks on this side, really creating a lot of good storage as well as the tool storage below the surface to keep the surface clear.
Well, there you have it. I think it's a good idea, and I may pursue it in the future. Some of you may want to pursue it now and work it out. If you do, send me some photos or a little video so I can share it with my subscribers. And if you do like these videos, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell so you know when I drop a new video, and most important, share the channel with others. Help me grow my subscriber base. It helps support the channel. You can also, in addition to purchasing the plans, which you can do by clicking on the link right here in the video or in the video description down below. When you purchase a set of plans, you will get a receipt from us immediately, and you can then download them. We do not email or send the plans. You just download them immediately. It's 24/7, 365. It's all automated. Also note that if you use PayPal, they will send you a receipt as well. Now that receipt is theirs. It has nothing to do with the plan, so the link will not be on the PayPal. It'll be on the receipt you get from us. And also, finally, I have an Amazon store, affiliate store. You can find that on my website, thesmartwoodshop.com, or in the link down below in the description. And if you go there and purchase any of the tools that we have in our store, they will share a little bit with us and not charge you any extra. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Have a great day.